Shalom, everybody, and a good Sukkot, a good Moed to you. Wonderful to be with you again. And in honor of Daron, we'll share a few stories of Sukkot with you. Sukkot is the most beautiful holiday. It has two main mitzvot, and that is to dwell in a sukkah during the period of Sukkot. And then the Torah commands us to take 4 species. One is called a pri eitz hadar, a beautiful fruit, and hadar means that lives on the tree from year to year. And by tradition we know that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he first gave them the commandment, he brought an ESROG like this from southern Italy, Calabria. As the Torah says, Yaft Elikim leyefes, that the beautiful belongs to Yefes, and Yefes, Noach's son, is from Greece, from Italy. You have ESROGim that come from different places, including the Holy Land of Israel, Morocco, and Chabad tries and take them from Italy. And this has both a beautiful smell and it has a taste. We are told it is also in the shape of a heart, and the taste and the smell symbolizes the taste. Tam is for Torah, and the smell is for those who do the MITZVOT. So the ESROG symbolizes the Jew who studies Torah and occupies himself with doing mitzvahs. And then you have the next 3 species, which is the LULAV. We try and get it straight, and the top should be closed. And this comes from the date palm. The dates have a taste, but no smell, and that symbolizes the Jew who studies Torah isn't as occupied in mitzvahs. Then you have, and that symbolizes, by the way, the spine of the body too. Then you have the HADASSIM. Most people, halachically, we take 3 HADASSIM, but the Rebbe told us to take 6, double the amount. If you notice, each branch of the HADASSIM, it has 3 leaves growing in each spot, and that's enough eitz avos. It covers the stem, and that has a beautiful smell but no taste. You could use it for your psomim in Havdalah throughout the year, and that symbolizes the Jew who does the mitzvot but doesn't occupy himself as much in Torah study. And then you have the 4th species, which is the ARAVOT, a type of a willow. You have to know the willow branch, Arvei Nochal. The Hadassim look like the eyes, the willows look like the lips, and they have no smell and no taste, and they symbolize the Jew who has no Torah or mitzvot to talk about. But as the Rebbe points out, the mitzvah of Sukkah discusses unity, and this symbolizes the unity of all Jews, the ESROG being the studious, the learned ones, and the ones who occupy themselves with good deeds, the LULAV symbolizing the Jew who studies, although he's not as occupied in good deeds. The HADASSIM are the ones with good deeds but not as involved in the study of Torah, and the willow has nothing. No good deeds and no study of Torah. But what he does have is the soul, the etzem. The essence of Judaism is in all of us, and we shouldn't deny anybody their rightful share. We need all to do the mitzvah. If we're missing one, we're missing the whole thing. The other species have complements to them, have qualities that are added. The ARAVOT is the essential Jew himself, the soul itself. And that is something that we should all strive to as well. So those are the 4 species of LULAV and ESROG. And today it is extremely easy to acquire them because we have all the modern means of travel and transportation, even with this terrible COVID. And many sukkos dealers, many lulavim dealers had problems with customs, but nevertheless it was relatively easy. You just took a couple of bucks, went to the shop and bought yourself a beautiful LULAV and ESROG. But you can imagine that in Eastern Europe, this is just at about the time that winter is beginning, things were not that easy. And to get a LULAV and a ESROG, which did not grow in Eastern European climates, you had to get it either from Italy, Morocco, Israel, wherever you got it from. It was sometimes very, very difficult and very rare for the average person to have a LULAV and ESROG. We are very blessed today. There were many times that there would only be a couple in a community, and the whole community would use the same one. But especially the Rebbes, they loved these mitzvahs. They couldn't survive without their mitzvahs, especially the holy saintly Rabbi Levi Yitzchok BERDITCHEV. We know that his whole life was centered around mitzvahs. They tell that the night of Sukkot, he was so excited about the beautiful, precious mitzvah of LULAV and ESROG coming up that the whole night he couldn't sleep. He was just dancing in anticipation. It reminds me, I remember when my sister, Kochi, was coming for the first time after her marriage. She was coming home to visit my mother in Montreal. My mother didn't sleep the entire night. She was dancing around the house that her daughter Kochi is coming. She was just so excited. And so too the BERDITCHEV found that excitement around MITZVOT. In fact, they tell that one night Sukkot, he was up the whole night, he was dancing, and the next morning when he could finally perform the mitzvah of LULAV and ESROG, as it happens, someone in the household had put his ESROG behind a glass cabinet. He put his hand through the cabinet, and though it was bleeding, he didn't even notice it in the excitement of having a LULAV and ESROG. We can't begin to fathom what the mitzvahs meant to these holy people. So one year, it was a very, very difficult year. Winter had come early. There were very few travelers, no market, and no LULAV and ESROG to be had for all the money in the world. The BERDITCHEV wanted a LULAV and ESROG more than anything. And so he sent out messengers to all the crossroads where people would be traveling to markets, etc. And he instructed them to find a LULAV and ESROG. And furthermore, he told them, money is no object. You can name any price that you can to get me the LULAV and ESROG. In fact, my friends, this is interestingly enough one mitzvah that's what they talk about. That we shouldn't bargain, we shouldn't negotiate, we shouldn't say how expensive it is, we should rather pay it, as I'll tell you in the next story. So, the BERDITCHEV had sent out all these messengers to the different crossroads. No luck. Nothing happening. It was getting closer and closer to Sukkot. And the Hasidim were extremely concerned. How will the Rebbe survive without a lulav and esrog this year? One of his messengers was on the crossroads asking every passerby, do you have a lulav and esrog? And lo and behold, one wealthy merchant answered in the affirmative. He said, yes, as it happens, I have a beautiful lulav and esrog. So he said, can I see it? And he looked at the lulav and esrog and he saw it truly was something to admire. The cleanliness, the growth, it was just so beautiful. And he knew that his Rebbe would be so appreciative and thankful. He said, wonderful. How much would you like for it? He says, well, I paid 100 rubles, which was a fortune in that time. He says, okay, I'll give you back your money. He says, no, you don't understand. I'm a wealthy man. I'm on the way home, and I bought it because I want the mitzvah. I don't need the money. If I wanted the money, I would have kept it. I wouldn't have bought the lulav and esrog. So the chassid said, but it is for the BERDITCHEV. How much would you like for it? Would you like double your money? Nope. 5 times your money. Nope. 10 times your money. Money's not an issue. I'm not ready to sell it for money. So the chassid messenger says, Rabbi, I know that everything has a price. Name your price. What would it be worth for you to sell your lulav and esrog for the holy Rebbe, Rabbi Levi Yitzchok BERDITCHEV? So the merchant was a very clever man, as well as a spiritual man. He said, I'll tell you what. If Rabbi Levi Yitzchok BERDITCHEV, the holy Rebbe, agrees to sell me half of his portion in the world to come, half of his portion in paradise in Gan Eden, I am ready to sell him the esrog for that. The messenger says, hey, chap nicht. The BERDITCHEV, the holy Rebbe, gave me authority, a power of attorney over his checkbook, over all the money he has. But I don't have the power of attorney to sell you half his Gan Eden, his paradise. That only the Rebbe can do. Would you mind coming with me to the Rebbe and discussing it with him? So this merchant agreed, and they came to the Rebbe. When they walked in, the Rebbe said, No, Sukkot is coming soon. Did you find a lulav and esrog? He says, Rebbe, we found a beautiful lulav and esrog. The Rebbe says, let me see it. They take it out, and the Rebbe looks at it, examines it, and truly, it is perfection. Beautiful. He said, wow, thank you. And he began dancing with the lulav and esrog. But the chassid says, Rebbe, chap nicht. It's not yours yet. There's a big price demanded. The Rebbe says it doesn't matter. For a beautiful lulav and esrog like this, the opportunity of doing this mitzvah for the sukkahs, I'm ready to give him any price. How much does he want? The chassid says, Rebbe, it's not money that he wants. It's your share in the world to come. It's half your paradise that he wants. The Rebbe doesn't blink an eye. He says, for a mitzvah like this, it's certainly worth it. He can have half my paradise for such a beautiful lulav and esrog. The merchant was no slouch. He didn't get to his position in life by just accepting things. He says, Rebbe, can I have a legal document stating that fact? The Rebbe says, of course. They call in the scribe. They take out an official-looking piece of parchment or paper, and they write a contract. And the contract says that such and such a merchant is selling his lulav and esrog to the Rebbe for Sukkot, and the Rebbe in lieu is paying half his portion in Gan Eden in paradise. And now the merchant has the document, the Rebbe has the lulav and esrog, and everybody is happy. The merchant turns around to the Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, I'd like to ask you a favor. He says, now I don't have a lulav and esrog, but I'd like to bench lulav and esrog over Sukkot. So would you mind if I spent Sukkot in BERDITCHEV and had the opportunity of benching lulav and esrog with you? The Rebbe says, sure, it would be my greatest pleasure. So the merchant went to the inn in BERDITCHEV. He booked himself a beautiful suite for the duration of Sukkot and was looking forward to spending it in BERDITCHEV. Now the Rebbe called his shamus and he gave orders to tell the innkeeper as well as every householder in BERDITCHEV. The merchant had paid for his food, you give him his food, but you bar him from sitting in the sukkah. Do not allow him entrance into the sukkah, and so the command was given to every household in BERDITCHEV not to allow this merchant to come into their sukkah. The merchant was innocent. He knew nothing of it. Came the night of Sukkot, he attended shul. He was on such a high from the BERDITCHEVers davening with him. He came to the inn. He got his plate of food. And when he wants to enter the sukkah, the innkeeper stops him. Says, I'm sorry, I have the Rebbe's orders. You cannot eat in my sukkah. You have to go to the Rebbe. That's strange. I never heard of such a thing. Even with social distancing, there's room in your sukkah. He tried a few other houses and he got the same response each time. He was forced to go to the holy RABBI LEVI YITZCHOK BERDITCHEV. He says, Rebbe, something strange has happened. Something I never expected. Here I am, a Yid, a stranger in this town of a Sukkot, and I want to eat in a sukkah and no one will allow me entry. The Rebbe says, I know. Those are my orders. I told everyone not to allow you to go to the sukkah. You have to come to me. He says, well, can I then eat in your sukkah? The Rebbe says, yes, you can. But there is a price to pay. If you want to eat in my sukkah over Sukkot, you would have to pay my price. The merchant says, well, what is your price to observe this mitzvah? BERDITCHEV looks at him and says, you know, I think you have something of mine. You have a document stating that you will own half of my share in the world to come. If you can sell me back that document, give me back my half share in the world to come, I will allow you to spend Sukkot, the entire Yom Tov, with me. The merchant looked at the Rebbe. He's going to be perhaps outfoxed, and he's in a quandary now. What way should he do? He thinks to himself, wow, Can you imagine the Gan Eden, the share in the world to come that this Rebbe has? If I live for 10,000 years and perform mitzvahs every day of them, I could never get close to the ankle, to the heel of that Rebbe's share in the world to come. And I have it in my possession. Should I just sell it for a mitzvah? The other side was, where was my soul before I came down into the world? It was in paradise. It was close to God. I came down into this world for one reason, and that is to do mitzvot. How can I think of spending the whole week of Sukkot and not eating in a sukkah? So without another thought, he turned to the Rebbe and he said, Rebbe, if that's your price, you want me to sell you back your share in Gan Eden, I cannot bear to be a whole week without a sukkah. You've got it. The Rebbe says, okay, bring me the document, please, which he does. The Rebbe puts it in his drawer and invites him into the sukkah. I want to tell you, the atmosphere of that sukkah, of being in the Rebbe's sukkah, ki yitzbeneni besukkah b'yayim ra, sukkah shalom, the spirituality he felt was so amazing. He was uplifted every second to be with the Rebbe, to hear his teachings and Torahs, to see the simcha on his face, to sing the songs with him and his family. It was all worth it. He had the highest of the high. He had the best, highest sukkah that one can ever imagine having. And to him, it was the best deal he had ever done. After Sukkot was over, this merchant came to say his farewell to the Rebbe and to get his bracha. And he turned to the Rebbe and he said, you know, Rebbe, when you first told me that you wanted your paradise back, I thought that maybe you had foxed me and maybe you were in a way cheating me. But the atmosphere of the sukkahs that I had with you was all worth it. I am so happy with the deal that we did. Thank you for the opportunity. The Rebbe smiles and he says, Rabbi Yid, 1 minute. I have something of yours. I did not try to outfox you. And he opens up his drawer and he takes his half share, the document with the half share of Gan Eden, and he passes it to him. And he says, this belongs to you, fair and square. Before Sukkot, you told me that you wanted half my share in Gan Eden, and I sold it to you for the LULAV and ESROG. I would never try and cheat you and get it back from you. The merchant says, so I don't understand. Why did you put me into this quandary? Why did you put me into this position? Why did you have me sell it back to you? So the Rebbe says, it's very simple. You told me you wanted to buy my share in paradise. You see, but a share in paradise is different to anything else in the physical world. The physical world, people could buy things with other objects. You can barter. You can pay something with money. The next world, it doesn't work that way. You cannot buy your share into paradise. Of course, if you do the mitzvah of tzedakah and help people, then it is the mitzvah that you've done that earns you a share in Gan Eden, not the money you paid. Gan Eden paradise is not for sale. You have to earn it. So when you told me that you wanted my share, half share in paradise, I was certainly ready to give it to you, fair and square. But I had to put you into a position that you didn't just pay with a LULAV and ESROG, but you actually earned it. And that's why I made you in that quandary to have to choose. Do I hold on to that document of paradise, or do I give it up for the mitzvah of Sukkot in the Sukkot, during the month of Sukkot? And when you were ready to make this sacrifice and give up the share that you bought from me in order to observe the mitzvah of sitting in the Sukkah, that's when you earned it. That is the reason why I put you into that position. Not to try and outfox you and cheat you and try and get it back, but to put you in the position of you earning it. So I'm glad to tell you that now you earned your share in paradise, my share in paradise. Here's your document, and I'll be proud to share my Gan Eden with a Yid like you. The Jew went on his way all the wiser. He lived out a long life, and when he was about to leave the world, he was on his deathbed. He summoned his family. He was lying on his bed, and in his hand he had a document. He told them this story. He showed them the document. He said, this is the document that the Holy Rabbi Levi Yitzchok BERDITCHEV sold me for my beautiful LULAV and ESROG. I'm asking you to bury me with this document in my hands, so that the heavenly court and the Malachim Shel Mayla know where I belong, in the heavenly Sukkah, next to the Holy Rabbi Levi Yitzchok of BERDITCHEV. That is the story, my friends. The lessons are many, including we have the most beautiful opportunity. We came down into this world to fulfill God's mitzvahs. It is so easy to acquire LULAV and ESROG and bench every day of Sukkot. It is so easy to eat a meal in the Sukkah, to eat all our meals in the Sukkah. Let us learn to appreciate the preciousness, the value of a mitzvah, and keep them, and pray for the day. Ru'ui in Kol Yisrael Leishav Basukkah Achas. The entire Jewish nation is fit to eat in one sukkah, that will finally have the great Sukkah Shalal Leviyason. Mashiachs will be here, and we'll all be together in the Sukkah once again. Good Yom Tov. I'll be telling another story of Sukkah shortly.